Okay, this session we're going to just cover off on conflict management. So hopefully you watched the previous session where I talked about Git repositories, cloning or downloading a repository to your local drive. Then we talked about branching, talked about committing, staging. Uh, then we talked about pull requests and merging. Then I quickly covered on the idea of conflict management in case you've got two team members working on the same file, then you've got to address any conflicts. So I just wanted to show the process for that. So here, I've just gone into my code commit repository. I've found this test2 repository. I'm assuming it's not actually being used for anything. Yeah, it's pretty empty. Okay, so it doesn't really do much. So I don't think anyone's using it. So here, let's switch to the test2 directory. Right, so we've got our main branch. So if we go back to our branches, this only has one, which is the main branch. Okay, so let's create two branches. So what I want to demonstrate is, let's say we've got two team members and they're making changes to their own branches. They're working on different things, but they happen to actually require changes to the same file. So when you go to merge your changes from the two team members, you're going to run into conflicts. And I'll just show you how to address those conflicts. So first thing, team. So I've created one branch for team member 1 and then another branch for team member 2. Now in general, try not to make your branch names too long because in a lot of our solutions, we actually end up using the branch name in the naming convention for our resources. And then our resources, they normally have a limit of 64 characters and that gets consumed up pretty quickly. So just be aware of that. Anyway, so we've got our main branch and we've got a branch for team member 1 and team member 2. Now let's say we want to make some changes. So let's say that we're team member 1. So we start with git checkout. Okay. So if we go, let's find our branch. Okay. So if we got this, what do we want to change? I'm just going to open up VS Code. Just ignore all of this. So let's say okay, let's say we want that change. We save those changes. Okay, then we run a git status, and it's identified that I've made a modification. I'm going to add all my changes, as in stage all my changes. So now you can see it's been staged. Okay, so now I've made my first change for team member 1. Okay, now let's say I've finished my work. Now let's say that team member 2 is doing the same sort of thing. So instead, let's say team member 2. Now on their working copy, they've branched from main, remember? And so when you open it up, they've got the original copy. Now let's say member 2, let's say they make that modification. Now when I run git status, it's seen that I've made the modification. Let's also make a few more changes. Let's say Okay, so now it's tracked that I've made 2 changes. I've made some custom text in index.py and I've added an extra line in git ignore file. So let's just add all of those changes. So remember, try to make these messages as descriptive as possible. Okay, so now we've got our 2 changes. Let's push all of those changes back to the code commit repository. So if we look here, at the moment, when I refresh it, I only have the main branch. I haven't actually pushed my new branches up. So I'm going to do a git push origin. It's going to say you need to run this command. So I just run that command. Okay, and then you should see the new branch appear. Right? You've got team member 2. So team member 2 has committed their changes. If you go over to team member 2, you can see there's my change. Now let's go back. Git checkout team member 1. Let's do the same thing. I want to push the changes from team member 1 up. Okay, so when I refresh this, this on the branches, I've got team member 1, team member 2, and they've got different commit messages. So you can see that you've got the latest commit messages against each of these branches. And let's say team member 1 was quicker. Their changes was only 1 file. Let's see what happens when they create a pull request. So they've got their changes, they've got index.py, they've got their personalized message, which is spelled incorrectly anyway. Then create a pull request saying, I want to pull my changes back into the main branch. It's a custom message. I want to pull that over. Then you can see all the activity. You can see the changes. It shows you that you've deleted this line and replaced it with this line. Okay, and then it shows you a history of all the commit histories. And then here is where you'd share it with the rest of your team, and they would review it and then approve it. They should have a button here. But let's say it's all approved. Let's say I want to merge it. Now, I won't delete this branch for now, but I'm going to fast forward my merge. Okay, so I've merged my branch over. So now when I go back to my code, I'm on my main branch, Now go to my index.py file. I can see I've got my custom message. Now when you go over to the commits, under my main branch again, you can see I've got my personalized message or my commit message here. Okay, that's all great. Now what happens when team member 2 wants to make their changes? They want to create a new pull request. Okay, let's go back to create pull requests. Now I want to pull back into main and I've got team member 2 stuff over here. Compare. Now it shows that this code is not mergeable at the moment. So what it's identified is that you've got a conflict in your code. So you need to address these conflicts before you can merge them across. Now the way that I like to address these conflicts first is by doing a pull against the origin. Okay, so it's identified that there are some changes in the main branch that are not reflected in the team member 2 branch. That's because team member 1 has gone and made some changes to the same files that I've made changes to. So it'd be good if we can resync all the repositories. So the best way that I like doing these things is I've got, okay, so at the moment I've got team member -1 branch active. So I want to switch to team member 2's branch. So that's active now. Now what I want to do is a git pull origin main. So what I want to do is do a git pull, and I want to basically pull as in download a new copy or download all the changes from the origin. So origin represents the remote server, and in this case it's code commit. So I want to download all the changes from code commit that's attached to the main branch. Hopefully this works. Okay, so here it's auto merged index.py, and it's identified that there's a conflict. There's a merge conflict in the index.py file. And so it's failed. So now let's head over to Visual Studio Code. And here it's got an exclamation mark. It's saying that, hey, there's issues with your repository. Let's just see if that's okay. So this is just, it's all written to the actual text document, but this is one of the nice features of VS Code, in that it's able to interpret these text documents and makes it a little bit easier for you to choose which one to select. So here it's saying your current change, and this is the incoming change. So this is the incoming change is from your pull request, not pull request, as in for your pull from origin. So it's saying on the main branch at the moment, after running the command below, which was git pull origin main, it's saying that this was the text, and then here is your current change is this one. So this one is just a matter of correcting this code. You have two ways of doing it. You could simply manually review this code. You could say, okay, this is what I've got, and this is what's coming from another change. This is from this commit. So I could say I want to keep my line. So I could simply do like that. But one of the nice things of VS Code is I could either accept my current change, as in the one in green, accept the incoming change, which is the one in blue, accept both, or compare changes. I normally choose one of the first two. So if I like my message, then I'd select accept current change, and that has now updated everything for me. So then I need to go back here, git status, and then it's identified that I've made a change. Git add, so I'm going to add it. Okay, so I've addressed the message conflicts. And now I'm just going to push all my changes back up to code commit. So that has pushed all of my changes back up to the code commit copy. And then now, because if I look through the commit messages and then I switch to my team member 2 branch, here you can see now you've got the initial copy, initial commit of code. Then in this team member 2 branch, I've now captured the change made by team member 1. Then I've also captured the changes made by team member 2. And then now I've got my last change, which addresses the conflicts between index.py file made by team member 1 and by team member 2. So it's got a full history of all of the changes. Okay? Okay, then you could go over to pull requests. You can create your pull request, main branch, team member 2, and now it says it's mergeable. Now basically what's happened is previously I couldn't merge it because I didn't know about the changes that team member 1 was making, but now because I did that original pull origin request, I was able to bring in the changes that team member 1 made, and now I've addressed any conflicts, and now I'm trying to submit those again. So compare. Then I can create my pull request. I can see all of the changes. It says that I've added a new file. I've made changes from team member 1's message to the team members 2 message. Then I can see a history of all the commits that were made. So this was the original. This is the one to address the conflicts. Then I'd share that with my team, gather any approvals that I need. Once we're all happy, then I can merge it. Just going to keep the branch, and then I can merge it all together. Now when I go over to my code again, if I'm on my main branch, I can see on the index.py file, it's got my new message. And then also if I look at my git ignore file, it's got that extra line that I added. Okay, so this was just a quick summary just to show you what it would be like when you have multiple team members working on the same repository, and generally it works pretty fine, but there are some instances where you might have team members updating one in the same file, and this is a way to address any conflicts that you might have in your application code. All right, thanks.